Hey guys, welcome to this week's team Zoom. I wanted to, there weren't many of you at January trainings, at the January core training or at the Doug Moss event last night. So I wanted to be sure to pass along some of my key takeaways in hopes that you can utilize. And in the future, because Sparta is doing so many events, I don't want to overload you with more even virtual events because I really want to encourage those of you that can to get to the live events. I really can't stress the importance of that enough. I think that I can absolutely pass along the information, but as coaches, as far as this business goes, we're definitely connected. We're not alone because we have so many resources, but a lot of our connection is through the internet. And I just don't think that over time, anything can really replace that face-to-face connection. And somehow the information means more and gets absorbed differently when it's happening, in real time in terms of those live events. And there's an energy in the room that's really hard to duplicate with something like this. But I hope this benefits you in terms of getting the key information. And if you have further questions, because it's really going to be just a summary, I hope you'll reach out to me. So the new trainings that Sparta is doing are the core trainings: Create, Opportunity, Realize, Extraordinary. We had one last month, and then our next one is with Trina Gray in a couple weeks, and then we had the corporate event with Doug Moss last night. Sorry, my husband's texting me. All right, so that basically the main theme is kind of what I was just talking about, especially the first training that I went to in January, is just to show up. It's just the importance of showing up. Sometimes that involves making sacrifices. But the thing that's kind of interesting is that, my family is absolutely my number one priority. Part of the reason that I do this business is for my family and for our future. And a lot of you tell me the same thing. And it sometimes in the short term involves small sacrifices along the way. And in terms of, I've missed some of my son's lacrosse activity or whatever. And as long as my husband can be there, or my mom or somebody, like, as long as it's not like a once in a lifetime thing, he's going to be doing that kind of thing for a long time. I've, found a way to do what I need to do with my business if there's something happening on that side that's a lot rarer, and not feel guilty about it. You understand what I mean? So, and I'm not making any judgments at all because everybody has to decide what's right for them. But if your kids are part of your why, if you want this business to work, showing up is super important. And continuing to show up even when things aren't great is really important too. But so that was kind of the main theme, and it's been our main theme. But the other piece is that the business should be fun. It should be fun. So there were times in 2016 I didn't have a ton of fun, right? But I'm trying to get back to that because really that's what it should be, and that's what we need to be able to attract other coaches. But then, so find the activities, the pieces of the business that makes you happy, and do those a lot. But also make sure that you are doing activities that actually move you toward your goal, because, and I'll kind of make that distinguishment, is that a word? I'll make that, I'll distinguish those here in just a little bit, but we need to think like CEOs of a business and be smart about how we spend our time. Okay, so one of the things that was covered in the first training in January was using Facebook events to recruit from a cold market. And some of you are excellent at this. And I'm starting to do it more. So basically you set up an event page. It should be a public event page. If you run a like page, it should be hosted by you on that page. You can basically put a summary of the event. Every day leading up to the close of registration for that group or event, you want to be posting things like before and after pics. You want to post daily things that build trust and value, motivational things, samplings of what they're going to get in the group. The other guideline is don't invite everyone. It probably drives you nuts to like get invited to an event. It's obvious they just invited their entire friend list. But really put some thought into who you're inviting. Obviously, you're keeping track of that. It's easy to track in Facebook, but then you are going to reach out to every single person that you invited personally with a private message or a phone call, because those events get missed all the time, and tell them why you thought of them and personally invite them. You always want to follow those up. If you are running Facebook ads, and I haven't done a lot of training on Facebook ads because there's a lot of training out there, and if you really want to learn about it, you probably need to invest in a training. I don't feel qualified to train anyone on that yet because I haven't hit like a huge run of success with Facebook ads, but I have learned not to waste any more money on advertising anything that's not free, at least right now. Because if you think about it, like if you don't know somebody at all, you have no history with them, and they're just like this random person, and they're not a celebrity, and they just put an ad out there like asking you to buy something, you're probably not just going to do it, right? Like, so why would you expect anybody to do that for our stuff? So really your ads should be used to recruit for free groups, free opportunities, freemiums, and then build the relationship with people from there and give them something for free of value first. Evidently, I didn't realize this, but you can run Instagram ads from Facebook. So I'll have to look more into that, but some Instagram strategies were also suggested, and we've got great team resources for that. Jamie Callahan kills it on Instagram, as does Kristen Borden. They've even done trainings for us before on these things, but the just basic Instagram strategies, if you're just getting started on that, is to, or you want to build your Instagram, is to 5 new follows, that should say follows daily, like 5 pics, comment on 5 pics, and use hashtags that fit your avatar, and use them all the time, even if they don't relate to your specific post. And you can build your Instagram audience that way. Okay, in regards to connecting and building relationships, basically, you want to do things that use others' actions for your reason to contact them privately. So you might send a private happy birthday message, but don't just say happy birthday. Actually try to get a conversation going and say, you know, hey girl, happy birthday. What are you doing to celebrate? And then voila, you have a conversation. Message those who like and comment on posts to start conversation. That is really easy, and they've taken initiative. That's their action, and you're just responding. Same if they comment, of course. And the other thing was suggested, it's a little bit unrelated here, but do a video for when you're introducing yourself to somebody virtually, especially when you start getting customer leads. You might want to do a video for customer leads. Now, I've done this before, and the open rate wasn't great. I think they thought it was kind of junk, so I didn't have a lot of success with it. But just hearing this again kind of inspired me to do that again and figure out how to get it delivered and opened. So it's just a matter of like, how can you bring yourself, how can you let people in to get to know you when you're building, especially from like a colder market. Okay, next. Okay, then April Keever, who hit elite this year. She was like 1 point away last year, and she hit it this year. Gave just 12 general tips that I thought were great. Number 1, I'm going to talk more about when I talk about Doug Moss's stuff, and that's to stop playing defense. So I'm going to skip through that. We're going to talk about that more in a bit. Invite every single day. And that's one of those activities where, I'm sorry, but if inviting doesn't make you happy, you still have to do it if you want to grow your business. So you need to figure out how to get more comfortable with that. Lead by example. So not only in your personal fitness, but not only for your customers, but for your coaches and developing team. Collaborate. We aren't on an island. We need to do stuff together. You can even collaborate with other people maybe that you admire with the business that they run, and maybe there's some connection between your fitness and nutrition stuff and maybe their, you know, essential oil stuff or whatever, and maybe you do a free group together or something. Like, look for opportunities to collaborate, not only with your own team, but with people outside your team. Read and lead. In other words, don't just read a book and put it down and file it away. When you do your personal growth every day, you're going to go through some books. Lead a study with your team. lead a study for your customers. In other words, it will drive the book home for you and share it with other people and let it help them as well. Don't feel like you have to focus on mastering a bazillion social media at one time. Just focus on mastering one social media platform at a time. Of course, you don't have to do free groups or challenge groups by yourself. Let's run those together. Be coachable, show up. I don't think I have to say any more about that. Ask for help, take charge, because it's your business. You can always ask for help, but at the end of the day, when you get advice, that's good. You should follow it, take charge. And get on the bus. That's kind of been Julie's catchphrase, and kind of comes from the energy bus, get on the bus. And not everybody, will qualify to be on your bus or want to be on your bus, and that's okay. But have fun and surround yourself with positivity and positive people. Okay, so last night, Doug Moss's presentation, he kind of started talking about making money and how, we're really supposed to all be about helping people. And we are, but you don't stick around if you don't make money. If you put time and effort into something that's near and dear to your heart, and you have a vision of making money, but you don't make money, you're probably gonna quit. And your coaches are probably gonna quit too. So we need to make sure that people are making money. We basically we have a system for monetizing helping others. At the end of the day, it doesn't feel icky because we've actually helped somebody. And that's okay. So I don't know if that was his exact way of saying that, but that was kind of what he opened with. So, he's like, let's be, in order to make money, you do have to put on a CEO hat and as well as a service hat, but you need to make sure that that's tempered by the CEO hat and you need to wear it. And those are the kind of things that he talked about last night. So coaches need to earn money if you want them to stick around, right? You need to probably earn money. All right, know the difference between service and activities that grow your business. So we do a lot of stuff that maybe doesn't make the most sense of our time in terms of maybe spending some extra time with a client that maybe hasn't, made a challenge pack commitment yet, or, letting people that don't commit to that into a group or spending extra time with a coach who, really hasn't done things in the past to earn your trust or time. I mean, there's so many examples of what that could be, right? So basically he's saying, know the difference, and it's fine to do those things, but you have to know the difference between those acts of service and activities that grow your business and making sure you're still doing the latter. And he really talked about being elite, and a lot of the meeting was about being elite, which may or may not be on your goal list. I think for the majority of people on this particular team, since we're still growing, elite's not necessarily a goal. But if you ever want to get to that level, I think it's really important to understand how to get there now and to be modeling those activities. And he did say, being elite, and I believe this too, it's really not about doing more. It's about being really strategic in what you're doing. And the book, The 12-Week Year, and that's why you might be hearing a lot about 12-week goals, and it's kind of built around this 12-week year concept and is a book. And this is like the third time I heard it last night, so I need to get it on Audible, and I'll probably listen to it, but you can read it too. So that's definitely, who knows, maybe I'll read it and decide to do a team study on it, because it's been brought up to me like 3 or 4 times just even in the last couple weeks. He also talked about why coaches get stuck at Diamond. And this totally makes sense. It's not really why I've been kind of stuck where I am, but I've played this game before and I've seen it happen. And basically they play diamond defense. So when I gave you those 12 tips that April had thrown out there, and the first one was diamond defense, and I said I'd talk about it later, this is it. They play diamond defense. So this is like, you get all excited to get to diamond, and you're really excited, and you're working with your team, and you're planning your Zooms, and you're planning your calendar, and you're doing all this stuff. And this can even happen at like an emerald level. It really can happen anywhere in your business where you're excited about where you are and the people you have on board. And then in a couple weeks, somebody is going to go inactive. They get redlined and fall off. And you're like, oh, that person's falling. I got to replace them. And you get them replaced and you're like, woohoo, I kept my diamond. I kept my whatever. And then, you're good and you put all this time and making sure everybody sticks around. And then a couple weeks later, somebody inevitably falls off and you're doing the same thing. And that is all you're doing. So that's what diamond defense is. And that's kind of what the company's saying about why people get stuck. And when he went out and interviewed like 15-star diamonds who are still killing the business, 15-star diamonds that are successful are spending at least half their time on recruiting, which means that people are 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5-star diamonds probably need to be spending 60, 70, 80% time on recruiting. And we're not doing that because doing fun stuff for your team and connecting with the people that are already on board is a lot easier and it's a lot more fun, but doesn't grow your business. So it doesn't mean that you have to neglect your team to grow your business. It means you have to identify your resources, focus your time there, create systems, be efficient, and spend time on recruiting. A lot of time, even though it's not as fun as your team building activities. And I think that makes a ton of sense. It's a great lesson. So basically a coach's job, our job is to help people, number one, help people reach their fitness and nutrition goals. Number two, help people understand how it benefits them to be a coach. And number three, help coaches do those things, right? So when we break our job down, it's pretty simple. It doesn't always feel that simple, but when you break it down, we got to keep it simple. This was my funny attempt at art on Google Slides. I didn't do too bad, I guess. I didn't spend that much time on it, but it works. Okay, so a successful coach must, and I know that everybody has their own definition of success. You might not be in this, well, my guess is that if you're listening to this, you're in it for more than just your, just personal fitness. So I won't even go there. So, successful coach, meaning a coach successful by Beachbody's definition, where you're bringing on board customers, you're bringing on board coaches, you're building income, you're building volume. You must hit Success Club every month. You must, and now that's, like helping 2 to 3 people get started with a lifestyle change. You must sign up coaches to keep growing because inevitably coaches are going to fall off too. So you have to keep doing that. Regardless of what you do, coaches will fall off. And we have to teach our coaches to hit Success Club. And somewhere in the middle of that is this beautiful balance called elite. And it does get easier over time because your confidence increases with time and your security and consistency with all that activities should grow over time. But if you're really doing those super consistently, all 3 of those over time, elite should happen, premier should happen. Even if you're not driving that hard, you should have a successful business. So, when I look at myself, I've got Success Club in the bag. I mean, how many months have I hit Success Club? Sign up coaches. I have signed up coaches, but I've hit a real lull in my recruiting. So that, in other words, my influx of coaches isn't always consistent. So there's already a stopper right there. Teach coaches to hit Success Club. I feel like I'm teaching coaches to hit Success Club, but I don't have enough coaches hitting Success Club. So I've got to look at myself and say, what more can I do to make this simpler for people? And sometimes it just comes down to numbers. And we're going to talk about that in a second too. All right, so I'm not going to go into the details of achieving a leader premier because the majority of people that are going to be watching this, it's probably not your goal for this year. And we have some great resources, even if it is. So you can access the Elite or Premier Guide, which has a tracking thing on the back, and a description and example on the front in your online office. I've linked a video here. You're not gonna be able to click on this link, but you can write down the number, whatever. And this is on Doug Moss's YouTube channel. So you can access, and he talks basically about all the qualifications, and a couple things have changed. And I even learned some new things, but a lot of what he said last night is in that video. So about half of what he said last night is really in that video when it comes down to specifically achieving elite or premier. So be sure and access those resources. So when I was talking about ratios matter in recruiting, at the end of the day, there's only going to be so many people that are going to want to do this business beyond a discount or just for extra accountability or why ever they jumped in. So, the ratio is a little different for everybody. If 1 in 10 people you recruit want to do this business and turn into diamond, and you only recruit 10 people a year, you're only building 1 diamond a year. And even then, chances are that diamond isn't necessarily going to hold, because no matter what you do, it's just the nature of people. Life changes, and people don't always stick around. I think if we've brought them in and get them into the process first, they're more likely to stick around. You know, we help them with their goals and have them be personally successful. But even then, at the end of the day, it's just really a matter of recruiting. If you feel like you're doing all the activities of the business, which I do every single day pretty consistently, for me right now, it's just coming down to numbers. There aren't enough new people coming in where I'm getting enough people that want to do something with the business, so it makes enough of a growth difference. So that's just reality, and it's a matter of spending more time on recruiting. So really good suggestions from Doug about connecting with new prospects, because he interviews top coaches all the time. And I love the suggestion to basically use your social media, whether it's Facebook or something else, but I think it's easiest to have these conversations on Facebook, to have grocery store conversations, even like on people's walls and responding and commenting. Because somebody said one of his coaches he interviewed said she starts 30 to 50 conversations a day, which sounds really unreachable to a lot of us. But if you're just talking about like general commenting, you could probably do that in 30 minutes, maybe. I don't know. What do you think, Kim? Like maybe 30, like really, like if you really like went to work, you could make 30 comments and like initiate. Now you have to keep track of it. You have to do something with it, but you probably won't do something with all of it. It gets back to the affinity thing. And I've talked about this before. If you're liking and commenting on somebody else's stuff, and they're responding back to you, it's telling Facebook and their algorithms that, hey, I want to interact with that person. So make sure that person shows up in my news feed. And then when you post about your fitness and nutrition stuff, or you do post a general invitation or your why story, or a coach impact story or whatever, that person is more likely to see it. So Kim and I were talking last night that the only danger there is like you could literally freaking spend all day on Facebook, and that's fun, right? That's really fun, but you have to be careful and set a timer, because this kind of thing takes a while to develop. So you don't want to to develop a result, to convert. You don't want to spend all day doing that, but it could get, eventually if it's a bigger conversation, you're going to take it to a private message and do more with it. So you need to keep track of what you're doing, but being lighter hearted about that initially, I think, is a great strategy. And when you post, get people to ask questions. So like I took a funny picture of me drinking my shake this morning, and I thought about this example, and I saved it to post later and just say, I bet you my shake is better than yours, just kind of catty and fun. And, the idea is to get somebody saying, well, what shake are you drinking? Right? And then you can tell them. And then he said, once you get a private message conversation going with that person, maybe delete your answer or delete their question, so somebody else asks the question as the post lives on and on. Have never thought about doing that. So I thought that was a great suggestion. And then check Doug's U channel. I'm excited to do this as part of my daily kind of education, personal growth activity. I don't think the interviews are too long. He said one of them was, but he's basically interviewed top coaches, like best of the best in the West or something like that. And they are just like without unscripted sharing their social media strategies. And he said he loves it because it's just super honest and off the cuff. So there's a couple things there you can access on Doug's YouTube channel. He stressed making small daily tweaks versus large scale changes often. And I can relate to this because sometimes you hear a national wake up call and you're like, oh my God, I'm not doing it like that at all. So I'm going to revamp my entire Coach Basics or my entire media strategy plan, or I don't know, something big. And you try to make this big, huge change that takes a while to even develop. And then 2 weeks later, you hear something else and you're like, oh my God, so you kind of have to run your own race and be true to what you're doing, but just know that you don't have to overhaul everything. It works best if you just make changes, small changes, even daily or often or weekly, just small little things you change, not anything that takes a ton amount of time, that you learn from every activity. And realize, and I said a little bit about this in my live team video the other night, the cups and events that Beachbody gives us are very strategically placed. Like, you know, this cup right now is driving us to spring and the next like Super Saturday. And, you know, so they're kind of like, here's an incentive or promo, like a cup, and here's an event, and then here's summit, and then here. So when you look at their corporate calendar, and I think my upline Julie does a good job planning our events strategically. So when I tell you to show up, like that plays into here too, like participate and show up, because they're doing what's been proven in the past to drive activity and volume. So you want to be kind of, I see it almost like as a rolling thing you want to get in on, right? You want to be a part of and not let it pass you by. So show up. He talked a lot about team building and placement, which I thought it's probably time for me to do kind of another future Zoom, and maybe do it on live video and have like a whiteboard I'm writing on, because it's best to kind of see diagrams and stuff. And I'm not the expert, but I do understand what not to do. So just some general principles here. When you develop diamonds, you're building rank. But it pays to keep working with those people, because star diamonds build volume, which build a lot more money. So build your paycheck. And especially if you're unbalanced, if you have a really strong leg versus a really weak leg, I mean, developing those star diamonds on your weak leg can really help eat up some of that carryover volume that you're probably not getting paid on. Don't forget to be strategic about where you place your PS coaches. And even after you sponsor your spouse and eventually at 2-Star open a second business center, like those entities can sponsor, but he's always talking about taking care of number one, taking care of your first business center. And I realized that's kind of been like, okay, I need to go back to more coaches in my first business center, but I don't have to put them on a lot. Like I can put them in direct relation to my spouse account and my second business center account. And that might sound really foreign to you right now, but when you get there, we'll cover it and I'll help. And then also a lot of people build their spouse's account, and that's fine, because that could be your emerald, your diamond. I highly recommend having your spouse be an emerald you can control. And then, I would really like my spouse to be a diamond that you can control, I can control. And I'm kind of hoping that happens by the end of this year or before the end of the first quarter next year. There are strategic times to do it. But remember that whatever you place with your spouse, like that doesn't get you Success Club points. It doesn't count toward Premier or Elite points, but it could count toward a rank of advancement that you are controlling with Diamond. So those are just general principles. So that's where I'm stopping. And then what you need to ask yourself is from all that, because, I realized I have this whole awesome notebook that I got at the New Leader Conference. I guess that was 2 years ago now. And I take like any corporate or big team training, I take notes. And I think, one of my big things is like, I could probably spend a couple days just going back through these notes and grabbing new takeaways. So it's really important not only that you hear information, but you don't get overwhelmed and you just pick like 1 to 3 things that you could literally implement today. So that you have to think of for yourself and follow up. If you would share with me what you took away and what you'd like to do, I would love that. Just if you're listening to this recording, send me a message. I'd be happy to hold you accountable. Kim, you were there last night. Do you want to share? You've had a little time to think about it too. So first of all, is there anything big that I missed from the stuff you heard? And second of all, what are you like, okay, I'm doing this now?
I don't think you missed anything. I think it was a really good training, and if you missed it, you missed a great opportunity. The takeaways that I got were definitely the 30 to 50 on Facebook a day. There's just those grocery store conversations. I never even considered doing that, and I think that's one of the things I'm going to start doing today. I don't know if I'll get to 50, but definitely going to try at least 20 to 30.
Yeah, and see how long it takes you. Let's play with that a little bit so that as we provide new coaches with that guideline, we can provide like a realistic time. Like you should not be spending any more than, and if you have this much time, this is how many you should do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, the other thing I think I'm going to do is definitely so I'm not on Facebook or social media more than like an hour or two, because I feel like I'm on there way more than I should be. Thing I'm going to do, and he kind of talked about that, quality over quantity. And so that's something I'm going to work on as well.
Yeah, and I'm one of these people that, like, I've worked way too many hours for not enough returns. So my focus right now is really making sure I'm building some more personal stuff into my day, like more intentionally. Can you hear me okay? Because your image is frozen for me. I don't know.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. I won't worry about your image is like frozen. Oh, now you're sort of moving again. I think it must be my internet. So I'm just making sure. Yeah, I'm actually using Alexa, the Amazon thing, like to set timers for me and be like, okay, and trying to put the core activities like, okay, I'm going to spend, and it's a matter of how much time you have, but like I basically have an hour to spend on the important stuff. So I try to do my personal growth when I'm doing other things. Today I had to drive my son to school, so I listen to something on the way home, or when I'm getting ready, or when I'm folding laundry or whatever. So I don't really have to make extra time for that because I'm doing that with my personal stuff. But I'm setting timers for, okay, I'm going to spend, and it can be 15 minutes, 30 minutes, however much time you have. I'm like, okay, I'm going to spend this entire hour, and it goes really fast, especially when I'm in doing invites and follow-up. And it's hard. A lot of that, some of that's on Facebook, so I can't close Facebook, but I'm like, this is all I'm working on. There's no squirrel activity with people's wedding pictures. And when I catch myself doing that, I'm like, boom, boom, like get right back. And then I'll get off of Facebook for a while. And so like when I did the slide presentation for this, I'm like, okay, I have between 10 and 11, and then I need to take a shower, and there's extra time built in there. But I'm like, I have no more than an hour to do this slide presentation, and I shut off everything else. Right? And be sure and shut off your frickin' Facebook notifications. For whatever reason, I did that a long time ago there, but they were still showing up on my Google Chrome. And like, if a message pops up in front of you, it's so hard to stay away from. I do not even want to see them until I designated time to go back and look at messages. So, and right. I don't think anymore, I don't think people are, honest to God, recently, I don't really mean this, but I've honest to God thought, I almost wish I had another job besides this, because I'd probably be better organized with it. Like, because then you don't have a choice, right? Like, you have to. And you're going to be really relatable to people that would think about coming in as coaches if you're doing this with another job, because most of them are too. So, like, I don't feel like a little less time is a handicap, because for me in the past year, I feel like more time has hurt me because I haven't done a good job like organizing it. And I've bogged myself down maybe with activities that I either don't need to be doing, or I'm just spending too much time on, or worrying about too much. And I think people have to realize too that everybody's journey is different based on like how long you've been in a coach, where you are, what you enjoy doing, like. So it's really important when you go to these trainings just to take pieces of what applies to me and run with those. Because even if you model somebody else's activity or you get an idea for somebody else, it's so important to be you. And I am listening. So I'm listening to a couple different things right now. One is essentialism, which is helping me think about things in a simpler, like minimalistic way, in terms of time and everything in my life, really. And then the other one I'm listening to is Big Magic. I think is it Elizabeth Gilbert? She was the one that wrote Eat, Pray, Love. And the first like hour I'm listening to it, and the first like hour, I just, for whatever reason, I love her voice and it's very comforting, but it took me a while to get into it. So when I listened to it this morning, I like clipped 3 or 4 sections because it was so, like, it really, all of a sudden I was like, wow, okay, I see why I am listening to this book. And right now, I have to be honest, it just totally left my brain what I was sharing from that book. Take me back for a minute, because it was important. You know how stuff leaves your brain? It left my brain. What was I just talking about with, I said I'm reading 2 things, essentialism, but what did I say right before that?
You were talking about another book you were reading, and
we were talking about time. We were talking about, why did this leave my head? I want to get this on record. That's why I'm like, crap. I might have to do another Zoom on it. It's just gone.
I'm trying to think what you said right before that.
This is a test.
I should have took notes. Oh, that's terrible.
It was something that I learned in Big, it was something that I learned in Big Magic, and I just really want to share it. Maybe that's God's sign that it has to be another Zoom.
Yeah, it just totally, yeah.
Well, I've got a lot in my head because there's a piece of it I want to pull for live video today. And then I started thinking about that, and it took me off. All right. Well, I'll just build some suspense for anybody listening to the recording.
Okay.
Like where you're spending your time and connection with other people. But the piece of it I'm thinking about is not the piece that applied to what we were just talking about. Oh my God. That's hysterical. All right. Well, I will apologize in text for my probably premenopausal loss of mine, and tell people if you make it to the end, there'll just be some pure entertainment for you, and there'll be a part 2. And the next year, I'll go back and listen to this and feel like. But I guess what people can take away is Big 12-Year Week, right, is a book we need to dig into, and Big Magic, like if it starts a little slow, it will get better, because this morning I was like, oh yeah, okay, this I need, this I get. So yeah, it's just at the end of the day, it's about working smarter and finding your joy. Oh, we were talking about being unique, authentic, and true to yourself. Okay, that had something to do with it. Oh, I got it. Okay. I got it. Doing like, she said people, we have an idea and we worry about it not being original enough. We wonder if somebody else has already done it, or somebody else already did something kind of like that. But the difference is somebody has probably done almost everything at this point, right? No matter what we're talking about, like somebody's done it, somebody said it, thought it, put it out there on video. But the difference is it wasn't you, and they couldn't put your spin in on it, or your style, or your personality. And she said, being original is not nearly as impressive as being authentic. That was it. And that really hit me. Like, the authenticity part is not new to me, but just comparing it with people's fear of not being original, right? You are original just as you are. We all have that God-given gift. So it's because the whole book is about pushing past fear and insecurities. And it's like, if you're authentic, you're always going to win, right? You always are. And I was kind of coaching him on one of her posts last night, right? And that's it. Like, we just have to remember, we just really have to be authentic. And that's where we're going to like touch people in the heart. So that was an extra 5 minutes I'd like to be able to cut out of the Zoom, but that's okay. In terms of my remembering what the hell I was going to say. Hopefully it was worth reading for. I really liked that piece of it. So yeah. And I need to do a live video about that too. I thought it was so great. So there were a few things in there that I bookmarked just in like an hour of listening to that this morning while I was, took my son I listened to it on the way home from school, and then dibble-dabbled in the kitchen, then went up and put on my workout clothes. And so I was probably about 45 minutes of listening. So you really can get that activity in. And that's, if you're not a good reader, I've had a lot of success with that. So, all right. So we're out. The good thing about this is that it didn't cut us off, because it's just you and I right now. So everybody can benefit from a little bit longer, and hopefully I'll tell them to fast forward through my forgetfulness. So, all right. So I'm going to stop the recording. Thanks for listening, you guys. And hopefully we'll see you at Trina Gray in a couple weeks if you're local. And Kim and I decided we are going to do a team dinner beforehand. I'll create an event. We'll meet at the table at the Market District, really close by, like 6:30. Just anybody that can come, we'll meet there for dinner before I haven't even checked my calendar yet, but I'm just going to make that happen. So I think it'll be fine. All right. Kim, I'm going to stop the recording and then.